I have a ticket for the last chance qualifier over in Texas later this year, and the goal is to essentially top that tournament, which then gets me an invite to the very next day to then go through a whole nother tournament and top that as well. What's up, crew? Just Zach Gaming here, and today this is the first of many episodes for our Road to Champ series, where I myself basically am going from a casual player and a commentator to a competitive player and basically topping tournaments. That's the goal for this series, as well as for other players who haven't done that themselves as well, who are casual players and they want to get into the competitive scene, or they just want to see what happens every week here. Now, before we get into the whole series and everything, I kind of got to give more background information about myself. So for a little context about my background, I've been playing the One Piece card game since the Super pre-release, or actually before that, since the Japan release. Me and my boys printed out proxies and played, and we've been playing it since then. I have my Super pre-release winner Luffy, and aside from that, I've been commentating Card of Magica for the most part. I did 1 or 2 PPG events. And it's been around the game since then. So really, this is quite a bit of a challenge. There's a lot of mental strength, deck building, test playing, and so on and so forth. And truth be told, I'm kind of tired of my boys clowning me, saying that I ain't shit. So what can you expect from this series? What you'll expect is a number of things, from current meta, watching, deck building, test matches, preparations for tournaments, and just really everything in between. And it really just is just a whole journey to encompass what is and what it takes to be a competitive TCG player in the One Piece card game community. But most importantly, I want this journey to be interactive. I'll be taking your questions, answering them to the best of my abilities, even taking in some of your suggestions, and overall, I want to learn with y'all. So with that, we're gonna go through the good and the bad together. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into what deck I'm going to be playing. That's right, we're going with Jewelry Bonnie, one of my favorite leaders right now currently, especially being a green mono. I've always loved green and what they can do. So finally, I feel like this deck deserves to top somewhere. So let's go ahead and make it happen. Now, obviously, this deck is not as complete orthodox as a lot of builds. You've seen a lot of Don Quixote and Supernovas. You've seen solely Supernovas. I've seen even some Wana, which was pretty weird. But yeah, honestly, I've looked at quite a bit of lists. I have more than one build for sure. This isn't the final end-all be-all, and obviously that's what the series is for, is to experiment, learn new ways to kind of go around and create the bounty deck. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into just a quick rundown of my ideas with the list. So obviously I'm running a lot more Supernovas, and that was kind of my idea with this. So with that, I maxed out on the 2K Scratch Manapus, and for my third 2K, I decided to go for Izo, because Izo has some good board control presence. And with that, that's why I decided to tech in the Trafalgar Law to bounce back if I ever needed to rest a little cheap blocker, if I need to rest a bigger body. I can essentially play my Law out, bounce back to 2K, and have that 2K in hand to still counter out if need be, or even play it again if I really need to. Aside from that, everything for the most part is actually pretty standard. Obviously 4 Cavendish, the 2 kids, 10 drop for sure. I wanted to keep 10 drop because it's a really well needed card. The Don Quixote Rosinante to protect the kid, 2 Zoros, which people feel like it's definitely a win me card or win more card, but honestly it does a lot when it stays on board. So if your opponent can't get rid of it, it's going to basically win you the game. 2 Bonnies, 4 Basil Hawkins, 2 Bartolomeo, and the 0 cost event. Aside from that, everything else for the most part is pretty standard here. Obviously, if I'm running the Don Quixote package, then these would be dropped down. These would be dropped down. This wouldn't even be here. And you'd see more Supernova, or more Don Quixotes, like the Baby 5s and the 2Ks and things like that. I just wanted more valuable 2Ks that I could use. Like, for example, Izo is really good against the red-purple Law, and the Scratch Manapu is really good for the Nami matchup, which just won something. So, something has to be respected. So real quick, I just want to give a shout out to the creator of the One Piece TCG simulator, because this man doesn't get as much respect as he deserves, and that is Batsu. Batsu literally created this from the ground up by himself, and now he has support, definitely a lot more now. But truth be told, like, he does all of this on his own time in the court. So do take the time to look down in the description and give this man some love. Join his Patreon. You get some perks depending on what tier you get and everything like that. And this is not even on his own will. This is me just wanting to show some love to him. So check him out for sure. So yeah, this week we're going to be showcasing me versus Anel. This is at one of my locals. Anel is going first this time. They play the Machino to draw a card from their life and then rearrange their life in any order. I think this card is pretty ignorant because in more cases than not, when they do play this card, they have 0 cost in their life. I just come to agree to that. But anyway, he did that. Went back to me. I passed turn and went back to Anel. In this case, they swung for 6. I took the first life because, they typically try to get Datsu. And he played the Shirahoshi. So the Shirahoshi was interesting. It's not really going to do anything against my deck per se because its ability is 1 KO'd by an effect that it will give them a life, but obviously my deck doesn't do that. So paid the 4 down after I swing for 5. They took and played my Urug, which gives me a down back at the end of turn. So at this point, if they had the Gadatsu, this would be a great time to play that, because they can just pop my Urug, which I wouldn't be necessarily against, kind of thing, because then that just saves me from having to, basically it saves one of my bodies later for getting popped. But in this case, he swung for 5 again. I took the life this time and rested the Shirahoshi, and then he attached Don to the Machino and decided to swing with that. I countered out in that. I thought that was interesting. Obviously, it kind of tells me he doesn't have the Gadatsu. And I definitely will take the life just in case they get it later so you don't pop my Yaruj and get a free body on board. I swung the Bonnie onto the Shirahoshi just so it's a blocker out of his field, and then played the Basil. And then obviously with Yaruj being at the end of turn, I get a down back. So that's the good thing about Yaruj. I get to play Basil on curve without having to, basically pay for it. Then they played the Whitebeard. This card is really interesting choice as well. After he swung for 6, of course, and I countered. Basically, you take a card from your life, put it on the top of your deck, and honestly, I think this card is just interesting. But passed it back on to me. I'm not really worried about the Whitebeard at this point because obviously with viewers being on the field, I'm going to get a down back at the end of the turn, and more times than not, whichever he decides to swing with first, if he doesn't swing with Whitebeard first, I'm just going to rest it. But I'm trying to figure out what exactly would be the best move out of cards that I have in my hand. He does have quite a bit of cards in hand. I have 2 good blockers on board. At this point, it's kind of, I don't want to say an awkward turn for me, but I kind of find this turn 8 being awkward for me more times than not, because it's like, do I play Kid and not rest it, which I've come to do sometimes. But in this case, I swung for 5. He took the life, played the 5, played the Cavendish, which got me back 2 Dawn, so basically I'm back at 5. And in this case, I decided to rest a Dawn and play the Law and not bounce anything back to hand. So I did that just so I can have another blocker against yellow. In more cases than not, yellow does tend to have an issue against a whole lot of blockers. And the only reason I didn't swing onto that Machino is because I need a body for, just in case he tries to Ragnarok my Basil for any reason like that, or Kingdom Come, sorry. In this case, played the Yamato, which kind of hurt, popped my Yaruj, and then swung with Whitebeard. Because of that, I rested his Yamato, and then he swung with the No, which I just easily blocked with my Law. Outside of that, now we're back onto my turn. I played 10 drop just because, like, why not? And basically rest this whole board. And then because the good thing about this board that I have right now is I have Cavendish. So in this case, I can basically get 2 down back, which I'm going to obviously do. And in this case, I'm going to swing with 6 to Cavendish in order to do that. Just to kind of get some cards out of his hand and to see necessarily if he's going to take the life or not. In this case, he does counter. I'm going to then attach another Dawn, swing for 6 again. And basically, I'm trying to mitigate as much cards on his board as possible. Or in his hand, sorry. In this case, obviously, he had the 0 cost event, so he trashed a card for that, and he trashed a card for an ability to basically get back to 2 life, which kind of was annoying. And then I swung for 6 once again. So in this case, obviously, he doesn't have much of a board. I'm sorry, I swung for 7 with law. In this case, he doesn't have a board he can attack with. I have quite a bit of a board that is about to start coming at him next turn. So I can see why my opponent did have to take a minute. If he had ace, it should be a great time to play it. In this case, I don't believe that he did, hence why he was trying to make some decisions here. But instead, he Kingdom Comed my 10-drop, which definitely was a move. And then I believe he played another Shirahoshi blocker. I can't really see that well on this with that glare. But I believe he did play another Shirahoshi blocker. Which, in this case, kind of, I don't want to say bothered me, but it really didn't. So now with my board, I still have the Basil, I still have the Law, I still have Cavendish. So basically I'm working with 12 down here, unless, for example, Onami happens to pop out. But in this case, I played my 8-drop Kid, attached the Dawn onto it, played the 2-drop Rosinante, and then swung onto the Whitebeard, 7, and got 2 Dawn back. In this case, he really wanted to save it, so I swung again, 7 to it. He kept trying to save it. Swung 5 to leader at this point because he got rid of so many cards in hand. In this case, he decided to use a null ability, obviously, and trash ace. And then I swung 7 again. He blocked the Shirahoshi blocker, and he passed. Now, honestly, I was comfortable swinging with the Basil because, I mean, he had Yamato and had quite a bit of cards. And in this case, he played another Yamato to get rid of the 2-drop Rosinante, and kind of he was honestly really stuck here. He swung 10 onto the Kid. I rest obviously the Whitebeard and countered out with the 0-cost event and a Uruj, and he passed back onto me. Now with all the cards that I have on my board, I'm trying to rid his at this point, and either he's going to get cards out of his hand or he's just going to let him die, which is fine with me because I still have his 8-drop on the board. So go for 8 to the Whitebeard. This time he finally lets it die, and I still have quite a bit of down to work with here. I swing onto his Yamato, and I don't get any down back for this case because I didn't play anything. But, you know, hey, it is what it is. This is a mistake on my part, but it's fine. Obviously, Yamato dies here, and at this point, trying to work with Don to get rid of as many cards as I can, or to get rid of his life. So I swung for 7. In this case, he took the life. Obviously, it's not his last life, so no null ability here. And then I decide to attach onto Bonnie. He takes a life, obviously does a null, and in this case trashes another card, which is the 5-drop ace. And then I swing for Basil, which I really need to try to get a null down to 0 life. That's the goal here. And with the little amount of cards that he has in hands, I didn't expect him to have the counter, but he did in this case, which, cool, fine by me. I still have my 2-drop blocker once again to basically save face, and basically I'm giving him, he has to have the Yamato for it. But in this case, he has the Gudatsu, so he still got rid of my 2-drop blocker, and now he has quite a bit of down to work with here to try to get rid of my Kid. So he decides to attach everything on to 8-drop Kid, and I let it go. And obviously I rested his other attack, which was a no, and passed it back on to me. Now, with the cards I have in hand, he only has 2 cards in hand. Honestly, I'm just going for game here. So I swung for 7. He took the life, which kind of told me that he doesn't have anything in hand. Went ahead and trashed the another Kingdom Come, and at this point I'm just swinging. So I played Hody, swung Cavendish just to get 2 Dawn back. And, you know, obviously take a life, so because of Hody, let that swing through. And then at that point, it didn't really matter what I swung with. I swung with Law, he countered out, and then I swung with Hody, and I still had the Bonnie swing after that. So really good game, truth be told, by an L player. Some really interesting plays on his part and my part as well. But this is just a match to kind of go to show how I have to improve on, and, you know, how far we have to go to get to where we need to be. And that concludes today's episode of our World to Champ series. And without further ado, obviously like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date when I post another episode. And, you know, drop down in the comments, what do you think are some things that I can improve on, or that I should talk about in the next video? For sure, I would love to hear it, and I'm always open to feedback. And if you're really interested, on Wednesdays, I'll be on Twitch and YouTube live stream, doing test matches. So if you want to obviously join in and basically try to beat me in a match, rock out. Or if you just want to get better yourself, this is a perfect opportunity to do so during those. So check down in the description for that as well. Without further ado, know that the One Piece is real. Know that you got love over here. Peace.